mail order bride stranded alone, until a cowboy's daughter whispered, "Daddy needs you." Ilara adjusted the wide-brimmed hat she had brought with her and scanned the barren land. Her heart thumped with a mix of fear and determination. She had traveled across light years to arrive at this remote colony world as a mail-order bride. She had imagined a small homestead, a quiet life with a kind husband. What she had not imagined was being alone. The shuttle that was supposed to take her to her new home had broken down halfway. And now, the only sign of life was the distant outline of a homestead barely visible against the jagged cliffs. The wind carried the faint hum of mechanical livestock, sheep-shaped robots grazing in perfect formation. The colony wasn't abandoned, but it was dangerous in its own quiet way. Ilara tightened the straps of her backpack. Inside, she carried her essentials: rations, a compact energy water purifier, a med kit, and a multi-purpose tool. Her mind raced with thoughts of survival. She wasn't a trained engineer or a soldier. She was a young woman hoping for a new life. But Arden 7 was not the kind of world that waited for hopes and dreams. It demanded action. Her boots sank into the sandy soil as she trudged forward, the wind whipping her hair across her face. She could see the homestead more clearly now, a simple structure with solar panels and small wind turbines. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney. Someone lived there, or at least had been there recently. As she approached, a small mechanical sheep turned its head and beeped. It looked at her cautiously, its sensors scanning her movements. She knelt and extended a hand. "Easy, I'm not going to hurt you," she said softly. The robot lowered its head, a faint whirring sound accompanying the gesture. Even machines on Arden 7 seemed wary of newcomers. She reached the front door of the homestead. The door was unlocked, but the interior was eerily silent. Dust motes floated in the beams of sunlight that broke through cracks in the walls. It looked as if someone had left in a hurry. A chair was overturned and a cup lay shattered on the floor. Ilara's heart sank. Was her husband already gone? Or, worse, she shook off the thought. Panic would not help her. She needed to think, to plan, to survive. She checked the supplies in the cabin. There were tins of preserved food, water canisters, and a small cache of tools, enough to keep her alive for a few days at least. Outside, the wind picked up. Dust and tiny pebbles stung her skin. She knew she had to find a safe place to camp for the night. The twin suns would set soon, leaving the desert cold and unforgiving. She spotted a small ravine nearby and decided it would provide some shelter. As she walked, her mind wandered. She remembered the letters she had exchanged with her husband-to-be. Warm words, promises of partnership, of a shared life on this frontier world. He had seemed kind, practical, someone she could trust. And now she had no idea where he was or if he even intended to meet her here. The thought was painful, but she forced it aside. She could not let fear control her. By evening, she had set up a small camp. Using a solar lantern, she readjusted her supplies and checked her tools. She knew that surviving Arden 7 would require more than just courage. She needed knowledge, and she would have to learn quickly. She thought about the mechanical sheep and other colony technology. Perhaps if she could understand it, she could gain an advantage in this harsh world. The first night was long and restless. Strange noises echoed through the canyons, rocks shifting, small drones buzzing, and the wind howling through crevices. Every shadow seemed alive. Ilara tightened her blanket and whispered to herself, "You can do this. You have to." She imagined her life back on Earth, her friends, her family, and let those memories give her strength. Morning brought some relief. The suns rose slowly, casting golden light over the red plains. Ilara packed her camp and began exploring. She found tracks leading away from the homestead, human footprints but faint, as if someone had hurried through. Her pulse quickened. Maybe her husband had been here, maybe he was still nearby. She followed the tracks carefully. They led her to a small ridge overlooking a valley. Below, she saw another homestead, more fortified than the first. Smoke rose from a chimney and she could make out the silhouette of a person moving in the yard. Relief and fear mixed in her chest. She was not alone. Someone else was surviving here, and maybe they could help her. As she descended toward the homestead, she noticed signs of recent activity: repaired walls, fresh footprints, and small machines buzzing quietly. She called out softly, "Hello, anyone here?" A child appeared at the edge of the yard, no older than 8 or 9, with sun-bleached hair and wary eyes. She froze, clutching a small wooden figure. Ilara smiled gently. "Hi there, I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Ilara." The child studied her for a long moment, then whispered something that made Ilara's heart skip. "Daddy needs you." The words were fragile but full of meaning. Somehow, this small human connection made the desert feel less vast, less impossible. Ilara realized that she wasn't just surviving for herself anymore. She had a purpose. Someone needed her. And for the first time since arriving on Arden 7, she felt a spark of hope. Ilara looked at the small girl, her chest tightening with a mix of hope and caution. The child's wide, sun-scorched eyes reflected both fear and curiosity. She clutched a small wooden figure in her hands, spinning it nervously as she watched Ilara carefully. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying grains of sand that stung the skin, but the girl did not flinch. "My name is Ilara," she said again, slower this time, keeping her voice gentle. I'm here to help." The girl tilted her head, unsure. "You help?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with urgency. "Daddy, he's gone and I can't find him." Ilara felt a pang in her chest. The girl was alone too, just like she had been until a few days ago. "Where is your daddy?" she asked carefully, kneeling down so she was at eye level with the child. "I can help you look for him." The girl hesitated, then pointed toward the larger homestead, a fortress-like structure perched at the edge of a rocky canyon. "Over there," he went. "Something happened. Machines angry," she shivered. "I don't know." Ilara's mind raced. Machines could mean anything on Arden 7: drones, automated livestock, or old security bots that had gone rogue. The colony was harsh, unpredictable, and full of mechanical systems that often failed in dangerous ways. But she could not leave the girl alone, not when someone so small had survived here on her own. "Don't worry," Ilara said firmly, gripping the child's hand. "We'll find him. And we'll stay safe." The girl nodded hesitantly. "I'm Leela," she said, finally offering her name. Ilara smiled. "Nice to meet you, Leela. I'm glad you found me." For a moment they stood in silence, listening to the desert's low hum and the distant mechanical noises of the plains. Ilara realized she needed a plan. They couldn't wander blindly through the canyons. The terrain was treacherous, and danger could strike at any moment. "Leela," she said gently, "can you show me the safest way to your home, the place where your daddy usually is?" Leela nodded and led her across the rough ground. They climbed over sun-baked rocks and navigated through narrow canyons. Ilara noticed the girl's agility. She moved like she had done this many times before, balancing carefully on uneven surfaces. Survival on Arden 7 demanded skills like these, and Leela had learned them at a very young age. As they walked, Ilara asked more questions. "How long have you been alone?" she inquired. "Since the big storm," Leela replied, kicking at a pebble. "Daddy went to fix the wind turbines and then the machines went crazy. I ran, hid, waited." Her voice quivered, but there was a strength in her eyes, a determination to survive that reminded Ilara of herself. Ilara nodded. "I understand. It's okay. You're safe with me now." They reached a ridge overlooking the fortified homestead. From this vantage point, Ilara could see the full extent of the property. High walls reinforced with metal plating, solar panels glinting in the sunlight, and a network of mechanical drones patrolling the perimeter. Something had clearly gone wrong here, and the humans had done their best to protect themselves. "Daddy's in there," Leela whispered, pointing toward a partially open door in the main building. He's hurt, but he's alive. He told me to wait for help. Ilara felt a surge of determination. This was no longer just about survival. It was about rescuing someone who needed them. She knelt beside Leela, checking her supplies. The backpack she carried was heavy, but it contained essential tools: a first aid kit, compact rations, and a portable energy scanner that could detect life signs. "We'll need to be careful," Ilara said, looking over the walls and patrol drones. "I think I can get us in without being seen, but we'll need to move quietly and stay low." Leela nodded, trusting her instinctively. She led Ilara to a narrow path along the canyon's edge, avoiding the drone's line of sight. The sun beat down relentlessly, making the metal surfaces of the drones glint like small suns. Every step required patience and precision. Ilara's heart pounded with both fear and adrenaline. Finally, they reached a small side entrance, a maintenance hatch barely visible from the main compound. Ilara examined it carefully. It was old but functional. With a few careful twists of her multi-purpose tool, she managed to pry it open just enough to slip through. Inside, the homestead smelled of dust, oil, and faint traces of cooked meals. The interior was dim, lit by emergency power lights. Ilara's eyes adjusted, and she saw signs of a struggle: overturned chairs, scattered tools, and deep scratches on the floor. Whoever or whatever had caused this had been aggressive. "Daddy," Leela called softly, her voice trembling. A groan answered them from a corner room. Ilara moved quickly, crouching low and signaling Leela to stay behind. She peeked inside and saw a man lying on the floor, his shirt torn and covered in grime but alive. He was trying to patch a small mechanical drone that had malfunctioned, its circuits sparking dangerously. "Daddy," Leela ran forward, her voice full of relief. The man looked up, exhaustion written on his face, but he smiled faintly. "Leela, you found help," he gasped. His gaze landed on Ilara. "And you must be—" "Ilara," she said softly, stepping closer. "I'm here to help." The man's eyes studied her for a long moment. There was gratitude, surprise, and something else: trust. Slowly, he nodded. "Then we can fix this together." Over the next few hours, Ilara and Leela's father, Sheriff Boone, worked side by side to stabilize the damaged drones and repair the homestead's critical systems. Boone was skilled but exhausted. Ilara's presence made a significant difference. Her hands were steady, her mind sharp, and she had an instinct for problem-solving that machines alone could not provide. As they worked, Boone explained what had happened. A sandstorm had triggered a cascade failure in the automated systems, causing drones to malfunction. He had been trying to repair them when some of the more aggressive units attacked. Leela had survived by hiding, but Boone had been trapped until now. Ilara listened carefully, nodding. "We'll fix it," she said firmly. "We'll make it safe again." By evening, the homestead's lights glowed steadily, signaling that the systems were back online. The drones had been deactivated or repaired, and the mechanical livestock returned to their programmed routines. The tension eased slightly, but Ilara knew they were not out of danger. Arden 7 was unpredictable, and more storms, or worse, could come at any time. Leela ran to Boone and hugged him tightly. "You're safe now," she whispered, her small arms holding him like a lifeline. Boone's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He looked at Ilara and nodded. "I owe you more than I can say." Ilara smiled softly. "We're a team now," she said. "We look after each other." That night, as the twin suns set and the desert cooled, Ilara lay on a makeshift bed in the repaired homestead. She could hear the wind outside, the quiet hum of functioning drones, and the soft breathing of a father and daughter finally reunited. For the first time since arriving on Arden 7, she felt she belonged somewhere, not just surviving, but part of something bigger. The frontier was harsh, unpredictable, and often lonely, but it had given her a purpose. She had found Leela, and together they had found Boone. And in the vastness of the desert, amidst machines and storms, she realized that humans had something no technology could replace: courage, compassion, and the ability to hope against all odds. Alara's eyes closed, but her mind stayed alert. Tomorrow, she would explore more of the surrounding territory, find out why the drones had gone rogue, and ensure the homestead remained safe. But for now, in the quiet warmth of a repaired home, she let herself feel something she hadn't in a long time: relief and the fragile growing sense of hope. She had arrived on Arden 7 as a stranger, alone and uncertain. But now she was part of a small, determined family. And in this harsh world, that was enough to make her believe that humans, ordinary, determined humans, could thrive anywhere. The morning light spilled across the rugged plains of Arden 7, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson. Alara rose early, determined to make the most of the day. After a restless night of thinking, she realized something important. Surviving was no longer enough. They needed to understand why the drones had gone rogue and ensure the homestead would remain safe. Leela was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor and cleaning a small set of mechanical parts. Her sun-bleached hair fell over her face, but her eyes sparkled with focus. "Good morning," Alara said softly, trying not to startle the girl. "Morning," Leela replied without looking up. "I fixed the small drone, it works now." Alara smiled. "That's great. You're very clever, Leela, but we need to check the bigger drones too." Boone appeared in the doorway, stretching his tired arms. "You two are up early," he said with a faint smile. "I didn't expect anyone to be this eager." Alara shook her head. "I can't rest, not yet. I need to understand what happened here." Boone nodded slowly, then turned serious. "All right, but we'll need a plan. These drones, they're not just machines. They're programmed to protect the homestead, but something caused them to misread threats. It's dangerous." Alara listened carefully, her mind already analyzing possibilities. Could it be a software glitch? Or maybe a signal interference from the storm? Could be either or both, Boone admitted. The storm scrambled some of the old communication arrays. I tried to reset the systems, but some drones didn't respond. I barely got away. Alara looked at Leela. "Do you remember anything unusual during the storm?" she asked. Leela's eyes widened. "The sky, it flashed in strange colors. Then the machine started moving weird. I hid in the canyon. Daddy, he tried to fix them, but..." She shivered at the memory. "It was scary." Alara knelt beside her. "You were very brave, Leela. You survived all by yourself. But now we'll work together. We can fix this." The three of them spent the morning inspecting the drones. Alara proved quick to learn, her hands moving confidently as she examined circuits and small control panels. Boone watched her closely, clearly impressed. "You pick things up fast," he said, scratching his beard. Alara shrugged. "I've had to adapt before. I'll figure this out." As the sun climbed higher, the trio discovered evidence that the storm had triggered a chain reaction. Small power surges had caused some drones to misidentify threats, attacking anything that moved too quickly. Worse, the system's backup protocol had partially activated, locking certain doors and rerouting drones to protect areas that were already secure. "We'll need to reset the main control system," Boone said grimly. "But it's in the central tower. We'll have to move carefully. Some drones still patrol the area." Alara's pulse quickened, but she felt a surge of determination. This was what she had come for, not just survival, but making the frontier safe for those who lived on it. "We can do it," she said firmly. Leela looked up at her with wide eyes. "Really?" Alara smiled. "Yes, really, but we need to stick together, and you'll have to trust me, Leela," the girl nodded. "I trust you." With that, the small team set out toward the central tower. The path was treacherous, full of jagged rocks and deep sand traps. Alara led, scanning for drone activity while Boone carried tools and spare energy packs. Leela stayed close to Alara, her small size allowing her to move quickly and quietly. The journey was tense. At one point, a patrol drone appeared on a ridge above them, its sensors scanning the terrain. Alara signaled Boone and Leela to freeze, pressing herself against the rock. The drone's searchlights swept past, missing them by mere inches. "That was too close," Boone whispered, his voice tense. Alara nodded. "We have to move faster but carefully. The closer we get to the tower, the higher the risk." After several hours, they reached the base of the tower. The structure was imposing, rising above the canyon like a sentinel. Its metal surface reflected the harsh sunlight, and small vents hissed with the flow of cooling systems. "This is it," Boone said quietly. "We need to climb to the control room at the top." "The reset panel is inside." Alara examined the tower. "There's a ladder here," she noted, pointing to a reinforced metal rung system along the side. "We can use it, but we'll have to watch for drones." The climb was slow and exhausting. Every step required concentration, every shadow could hide danger. Leela held tightly to Alara's hand, her small fingers gripping hers like a lifeline. Alara felt a surge of protectiveness. This little girl had endured so much already. She would not let anything happen to her. As they ascended, they encountered their first challenge. A malfunctioning drone perched on a ledge above them, its sensors locked onto movement below. Boone whispered instructions, and Alara improvised. Using a long metal rod, she tapped the drone's sensor array, causing it to spin and falter. Leela giggled quietly, relieved. At last, they reached the control room. The door was partially sealed, locked by the backup system. Alara examined the panel, noting a series of glowing symbols and buttons. She had never seen this exact model before, but instinct and observation guided her fingers. "Stand back," she said. Boone and Leela moved a few steps away. Alara worked carefully, bypassing the damaged circuits and restoring the main power flow. Sparks flew, and a low hum filled the room as the system slowly came back online. The drones outside paused, their aggressive behavior halting as the reset completed. Boone exhaled in relief. "You did it," he said, shaking his head. "I can't believe you managed that." Alara smiled, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. "We did it together. Leela helped too." The little girl beamed, clearly proud of their success. "We fixed it," she whispered. As they descended the tower, the desert seemed quieter, safer. The drones returned to their normal routines, the mechanical livestock resumed grazing, and the homestead was secure once more. That evening, they gathered around a small fire outside the homestead. Boone tended to a simple meal while Alara and Leela sat nearby. The wind carried the scent of hot metal and dry sand, but for the first time it felt comforting rather than threatening. Leela leaned against Alara. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. Alara hugged her gently. "I'm glad I'm here too," she replied. "We'll face whatever comes next together." Boone watched them quietly, a faint smile on his face. He had seen many people try to survive Arden 7, but he had never seen someone adapt so quickly, so fearlessly. Alara was remarkable, not just brave, but resourceful, compassionate, and determined. As night fell, the twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across the red plains. The desert seemed less intimidating now, almost peaceful. Alara lay in her bedroll, listening to the soft hum of drones and the occasional rustle of sand. Her thoughts drifted to the future. The frontier was harsh and dangers were still out there, storms, rogue drones, and unknown threats, but she no longer faced them alone. Leela and Boone had become her purpose, her family. Together, they could overcome anything. In the quiet of the night, Leela whispered again, her small voice carrying a mix of hope and trust. "Daddy needs you." Alara felt the weight of those words, the responsibility and the connection. She had come to Arden 7 seeking a new life, unsure of what awaited her. Now, she had found not just survival, but meaning, belonging, and a mission worth pursuing. Tomorrow, they would explore more of the surrounding territory, investigate other malfunctioning systems, and ensure that the homestead was truly safe. But tonight, they rested, united in determination and hope. Alara's eyes closed, but her mind stayed alert. She knew that Arden 7 would continue to test them, but she also knew that humans had a strength that machines and storms could not break. Courage, ingenuity, and compassion were their greatest tools, and together they were unstoppable. In the vastness of the desert, beneath twin moons and endless stars, Alara, Leela, and Boone were no longer merely surviving. They were thriving, proving that the human spirit could shine even in the harshest corners of the universe. The sun had barely risen over the jagged horizon of Arden 7 when Alara awoke, her mind already racing. The reset of the homestead systems had brought temporary relief, but she knew it was only the beginning. The malfunctioning drones were a symptom, not the cause. Something deeper, something hidden, had triggered the chaos during the storm. She needed to investigate further. Boone was already outside, checking the perimeter with practiced eyes. His stance was relaxed but alert, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked even in familiar territory. Leela was nearby, busy inspecting one of the smaller drones, ensuring it had returned to normal operation. The desert was calm now, but Arden 7 had a way of hiding threats beneath its beauty. "Alara," Boone called, noticing her approach. "You're thinking about going out again, aren't you?" She nodded. "We need to see what caused the drones to go rogue. If it happened once, it could happen again. And if there's something dangerous out there, we should know before it reaches the homestead." Boone studied her for a long moment, weighing her determination against the risks. Finally, he nodded. "All right, but we do this carefully. We stick together and we take Leela with us. No one gets left behind." Leela's eyes lit up. "Really? We're going on an adventure," Alara smiled. "Yes, but a careful one. You'll need to stay close and follow instructions." The three of them prepared for the journey. Boone packed tools and supplies, while Alara checked communication devices and energy packs. Leela, small but determined, carried a compact survival kit. They moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the terrain for threats and unusual activity. The first leg of their journey took them across a rocky plain, where the ground was littered with jagged stones and half-buried machinery. The remnants of abandoned colonies were scattered like forgotten toys, their rusted metal contrasting sharply with the red desert. "Alara, look at this," Boone said, pointing to a patch of scorched earth. "Something triggered a high-voltage discharge here, could be linked to the drone malfunctions." Alara knelt to examine the site. Burn marks and melted circuits indicated a sudden surge of energy, probably caused by interference from the storm. "It's more than a glitch," she said. "Something out there is powerful enough to affect multiple systems at once. We need to find the source." As they pressed on, the terrain grew more treacherous. Narrow canyons twisted like the veins of the planet, and sudden drop-offs appeared without warning. Alara led the way, her sharp eyes spotting safe footing and hidden paths. Leela followed closely, trusting her instinctively, while Boone watched from behind, ready to assist. Hours passed and the sun climbed high. Heat radiated off the rocks, making the air shimmer. The group took a short break near a natural spring, refilling water canisters and checking their equipment. "I've never seen anyone move like you, Alara," Boone said, handing her a ration bar. "You adapt so quickly. Most people would be exhausted by now." Alara smiled faintly, taking a bite. "I've had to adapt before. You learn fast when survival depends on it." Leela, meanwhile, inspected a small drone resting nearby. "I think I can make it better," she said confidently, tightening a few screws. "It'll help us if anything tries to follow us." Satisfied, Alara nodded. "Good. Every advantage counts." Their path eventually led them to a narrow canyon where the air hummed with an unusual vibration. The walls glowed faintly, reflecting an energy source that pulsed like a heartbeat. Alara's instincts screamed that they were close to the cause of the malfunctions. "Stay close," she whispered. "We don't know what's waiting ahead." As they advanced, a sudden movement caught their attention. A patrol drone, larger and more advanced than any they had seen, hovered above a ridge. Its sensors glowed red, scanning for intruders. Alara ducked behind a rock, signaling Boone and Leela to do the same. Boone whispered, "We need a distraction." Alara scanned the environment and spotted a loose rock ledge. With careful precision, she dislodged a boulder, sending it tumbling down the canyon. The drone's sensors tracked the movement and it pivoted, following the rock's path. "Now," Alara hissed, and they moved quickly along the opposite side of the canyon, slipping past the distracted machine. Leela giggled quietly, her first sign of excitement. "That was amazing." Alara smiled but remained focused. "Not yet. We're not safe." Finally, they reached the heart of the canyon, where a hidden chamber revealed itself behind a natural rock formation. Inside, strange devices hummed with energy, connected by cables that spread like roots into the canyon walls. Sparks flew intermittently, indicating unstable power. Boone's eyes widened. "I've never seen technology like this on Arden 7. Not even the old colonies had equipment this advanced." Alara approached cautiously. "Whatever this is, it caused the drones to go rogue. And if we don't shut it down, it could happen again, or worse." Leela clung to Alara's side, her small face pale but determined. "We can fix it, right?" Alara knelt beside her, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Yes, we can, but we have to work together, carefully. Step by step." The three of them examined the devices. Alara's knowledge of machinery, Boone's experience, and Leela's ingenuity complemented each other perfectly. Alara identified a main control unit that seemed to regulate the energy pulses affecting the drones. "This is it," she said. "If we disable this safely, the drones will stop malfunctioning permanently." Boone frowned. "It's risky. One wrong move and we could trigger another surge." Alara nodded. "I know, but we can do it." Working together, they synchronized their actions. Leela handed tools as needed, Boone guided the adjustments, and Alara carefully rerouted the energy flow. Sparks hissed and arcs of electricity danced dangerously close, but Alara's hands moved steadily, guided by logic and intuition. After tense minutes that felt like hours, the humming of the chamber began to stabilize. The glowing energy pulses slowed, then faded. Outside, the distant hum of drones returned to normal, their sensors resuming standard patrol patterns. Boone exhaled in relief. "You did it," he said, shaking his head. "I can't believe it." Alara smiled faintly. "We did it together. Leela helped too." The little girl's face lit up. "We saved them," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder and pride. As they made their way back to the homestead, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the canyon. The desert now felt less hostile, almost welcoming, as if it acknowledged their bravery and determination. Back at the homestead, Boone began reinforcing the walls and repairing minor damages, while Alara documented the location of the hidden chamber and the strange devices. Leela helped with small tasks, proud of her contributions. The bond between the three of them grew stronger, a mix of trust, respect, and shared triumph. That night, as they sat around a fire, Boone spoke quietly. "I've seen many people try to survive here. Most give up after a few days. But you, both of you, you've proven that humans can face anything and come out stronger." Alara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "It's not just me. It's all of us. Humans survive because we work together, because we adapt. That's what makes us strong." Leela hugged her knees, listening intently. "I like that," she whispered. Alara smiled. "Remember it. We can do anything when we stick together." As night deepened, the twin moons rose above the horizon, casting silver light across the plains. The desert was calm now, filled with the gentle hum of functioning drones and the distant sounds of mechanical livestock. Arden 7 had tested them, pushed them to their limits, but they had prevailed. Alara lay on her bedroll, staring up at the moons. The frontier was harsh and unpredictable, but she had discovered something more valuable than survival: purpose. She had found a family in Boone and Leela, and together they could face any challenge the desert threw at them. Tomorrow she would plan the next steps, exploring the surrounding territory, repairing other systems, and ensuring the homestead remained safe. But tonight she allowed herself a moment of peace. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear, and emerged victorious. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying the promise of new challenges and new adventures. But for Ilara, Boone, and Leela, it also carried hope, courage, and the knowledge that humans, no matter how ordinary, could thrive even in the harshest corners of the universe. In the vastness of Arden 7, among machines, storms, and endless red plains, the trio was no longer just surviving. They were thriving. Together they were unstoppable. The desert of Arden 7 stretched endlessly under the twin suns, but for Ilara, Boone, and Leela, the frontier no longer seemed empty. Their bond had grown stronger through challenges, but the adventure was not yet over. While the rogue drones had been stabilized and the hidden chamber deactivated, there remained one crucial task: finding Ilara's missing husband, whose mysterious disappearance had set this journey in motion. The three of them prepared early in the morning, packing tools, supplies, and portable scanners. Boone studied the maps he had marked over the past days, tracking possible locations where the storm might have trapped Ilara's husband. "If he's still alive," Boone said, "he won't be far from the canyon systems. The storm likely forced him into a smaller passage or a hidden area for shelter." Ilara's heart pounded. Hope and anxiety twisted together. She had survived Arden 7 on her own, helped Leela, and restored the homestead systems. But now her personal mission felt more urgent. "We have to find him," she said firmly. "We can't waste time." Leela's small hand squeezed hers. "We'll help," the girl said. Her confidence had grown over the past days, her courage proving that even the youngest humans could face danger when guided and supported. Boone led the way through a series of narrow canyons, the path twisting like a labyrinth carved by centuries of wind and erosion. The red rock walls glimmered faintly with mineral deposits, and small mechanical sensors they had placed earlier beeped faintly, providing guidance. Ilara carried the portable scanner, sweeping the air for life signs. Hours passed, and the terrain grew more dangerous. Loose rocks shifted underfoot, small sand traps threatened to pull them down, and the desert's heat pressed against them like a living thing. But their determination was stronger than any obstacle. Suddenly, the scanner beeped, a weak but steady life sign. Ilara's pulse raced. "This way," she called, moving cautiously toward the signal. Boone and Leela followed, their eyes scanning the surroundings. The canyon narrowed sharply, forcing them to squeeze through a tight passage. Dust fell around them as rocks shifted with every step. At last they reached a small alcove, partially hidden by jagged stones. There, curled up and exhausted, was Ilara's husband, alive but weakened from exposure and fatigue. "Ilara," he whispered, barely lifting his head. Relief and disbelief filled his eyes. She dropped to her knees beside him, tears threatening to spill. "I found you," she said softly, gripping his hands. "You're safe now. We'll get you home." Boone stepped forward to assist, offering water and helping stabilize him. Leela hugged his leg tightly, her small frame trembling with relief. "Daddy," she whispered. Ilara's husband looked around, seeing the trio, his wife, the brave girl, and the seasoned frontier man. I can't believe you," he murmured, gratitude and amazement in his voice. "How did you?" Ilara smiled faintly. "Humans can do amazing things when we work together. That's how we survived Arden 7. That's how we found you." The journey back to the homestead was careful but filled with quiet joy. They moved slowly, ensuring safety while sharing small words of encouragement. The desert, once intimidating, now seemed like a challenge they could face together. Ilara's husband regained strength with every step, reassured by their presence and the knowledge that humans, together, could thrive even in the harshest conditions. Back at the homestead, Boone helped Alara's husband inside. The home, now secure and fully operational, provided warmth, water, and stability. Leela skipped ahead, eager to prepare a small celebration with simple food and clean water. Alara watched the reunion quietly, her heart full. Arden 7 had tested them, pushed them to the limits of survival, but it had also shown the incredible resilience of humans. "Thank you," Alara's husband said, finally standing steady with Boone's support. "I don't know how I could have managed alone." "You don't have to," Alara said softly. "That's why we're here. We survive together. Humans always do." The evening was calm, the twin moons casting silver light over the plains. The homestead glowed warmly against the red desert, a beacon of human ingenuity and perseverance. The drones hummed quietly, returning to their routines under Alara's careful oversight. The mechanical livestock grazed in perfect formation, a testament to the restored order they had achieved. Around a fire, the small family shared a meal. Boone recounted tales of his early days on Arden 7, when he had struggled alone, and Leela listened wide-eyed, occasionally adding her own small victories from the past days. Alara's husband shared his story of being trapped, the danger he had faced, and the fear he had felt, yet he emphasized hope, courage, and trust in the human spirit. Alara sat quietly, reflecting. Arden 7 had been harsh and unrelenting, but it had revealed something profound. Humans could face any challenge when they adapted, persevered, and worked together. Their intelligence, empathy, and determination were unmatched by the very technology designed to control the frontier. The next morning, they began planning a new life on Arden 7. Repairs were made to the homestead, energy systems stabilized, and patrol routes improved. Alara documented the hidden chambers and rogue drone sites, ensuring no future disaster could threaten them unprepared. She trained Boone and Leela on efficient use of tools and survival techniques, passing on skills and knowledge that would make them stronger. Days turned into weeks. The desert storms came and went, but the homestead stood firm. The trio explored nearby valleys, discovering hidden water sources, natural shelters, and safe paths. Each day, Leela's confidence grew, Boone's experience guided them wisely, and Alara's leadership inspired them all. Together, they had transformed a harsh, lonely frontier into a thriving home. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the desert sky in hues of gold and violet, Alara stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the plains. Boone approached silently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've changed this place," he said, "made it more than survival. You've made it a home." Alara looked down at the homestead below, where Leela played with her father, and the drones moved smoothly through their programmed routines. "We did it together," she said softly. "Humans can survive anywhere, but when we care for each other, we thrive." Boone nodded. "I never doubted it. Arden 7 might be harsh, but humans were harder." Alara smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. The frontier was still wild, still full of challenges, but they had proven that courage, ingenuity, and compassion could overcome even the most unforgiving worlds. Humans, she realized, were capable of more than survival. They could flourish, even where others might fail. The final night arrived quietly. Around the fire, they shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. The desert wind whispered softly, carrying the scent of sand and minerals, but it no longer seemed threatening. Arden 7 had been tested, and they had endured. As Alara gazed at the stars, she felt hope and purpose fill her heart. She had arrived on this distant planet uncertain and alone. Now she had family, home, and a sense of belonging. The future was unknown, but it was theirs to shape. Together they would face storms, challenges, and mysteries, knowing that the human spirit, resilient, resourceful, and compassionate, could overcome anything. The desert stretched infinitely, but it was no longer intimidating. It was a testament to human perseverance, ingenuity, and courage. Alara, Boone, Leela, and her husband had survived, adapted, and thrived. Arden 7 was not just a place to endure. It was a place to live, to grow, and to shine. Alara smiled as she watched Leela laughing beside her father. She whispered quietly, almost to herself, "Humans, we can do anything." And for the first time in her life on this frontier world, she knew it was true.